This morning we're so thankful to have Reverend Tatsuo Muneto as our to give the Dharma talk.
Thank you, Reverend Sumikawa, the members of Hilo Hongwanji, for inviting me for the spring Ohigan service. My first visit to Hilo Hongwanji was back in 1966 or 67. I was a minister of Honpa Hongwanji, Hawaii Betsuin, and I was asked to come here for the Dharma messages. I was so happy to see many adults, many children. KG was one, and his friend was George Tagawa, George, I'm sorry. And Ralph Bresno was among them, and there was a upright piano donated by the family, and the daughter was playing the piano. Many years passed since then, and I really enjoy. I feel grateful to the membership of Kailua Hongwanji for coming up with this beautiful temple. I understand the finance of this, the construction came from Ono family, Dorothy Ono. I knew her, I know the children. I heard she donated the fund for the construction of this very modern, beautiful temple building. So I'd like to ask you to join me for aspiration for this morning. As the sun shines upon the earth, awakening the seed that lies therein, so does the light of truth shed its glorious radiance in the hearts and minds of all mankind, calling forth into activity the compassion of the universe. May the same light shine upon us all, giving us the insight to realize that life is one, so that we may constantly strive for the well-being not only of ourselves, but also of all people everywhere. Namo Amida Butsu. On this very auspicious spring Higan service, which is to honor Bodhisattva ideal to reach the other shore of enlightenment. I will talk about happiness, what happiness means in Jodo Buddhist life. Higan is a Japanese word for the other shore of enlightenment. This is the other shore of enlightenment. That's contrasted to this shore, Shigan, which is human realm, which is filled with changes and conflicts and misunderstanding. So the other shore and this shore are contrasted, but in Jodo Buddhist life, they become one. They become one. That's where we find the source of true happiness in living. Early part of March last year, there was a very interesting newspaper article in the Honolulu Star Advertiser. It read, Pearl City ranked the fourth happiest. May I repeat? Pearl City is ranked the nation's fourth happiest city. So when I read this article, what? Pearl City is such a special place? Bert was born and raised in Pearl City. Happiest state in America? Fourth. First is Bismarck. Second, Fremont. Third, San Jose. Fourth, Pearl City. That's very interesting. And I checked the internet and found out many things about this survey. On March 20th of each year is International Day of Happiness. So last year there was a survey conducted by Washington, D.C. based personal finance website. And they study conditions of happiness among 180 cities in the United States. And in this survey, they use three criteria. One, emotional and physical well-being. Second, income and employment. Third, environment and community. And the survey found that Pearl City was ranked the fourth happiest city in America, with good public schools, a shopping center, and a medical center, and good community programs. Many Pearl City residents feel very safe. Separation and divorce. Separation and divorce rate is very low in Pearl City, the survey discovered. And not too many people there use marijuana. The residents work very hard for their families, and they have a good sleeping hours in the quiet community. When I drive down from Pearl City High School side towards town, I see beautiful scenery of Pearl Harbor. Definitely, town is very quiet, so people in Pearl City have a good sleep. So, Pearl City met these three conditions of happiness: emotional and physical well-being, income and employment, and environment and community. Now, you may say, what about us, Kailua? Kailua to me, is a very quiet, peaceful place. People work hard for their family. There is a good school, hospital, shopping center. Definitely, Kailua can be considered as one of the most happiest places in Hawaii, right? Churches and temple, and the small Buddhist organizations. And I believe that Kailua continues to provide resources for happy life. In order to become happy members of Hilo Hongwanji Sangha, we need to nurture inner resource to enrich our Buddhist lives. And this inner resource for happiness in Jodo Shinshu is becoming joyful within the wonderful working of unconditional compassion of Amida Buddha. How can we reach this state of being joyful? It's in Japanese, yorokobi, joy, peace, and definitely we need conditions for happy life. Income, material, programs, and so forth, but they constantly change. But inner resource that we nurture with Jodo Shin Buddhist way of life may not change that much, okay? Because Amida Buddha's compassionate heart is very, very constant. So, in order for us to develop Buddhist life, regularly attend the Sunday service and practice compassion, metta, karuna. Compassion in Sanskrit is loving kindness, metta, loving kindness, and compassion. Nagarjuna first teaches all 7 masters in Jodo Shinshu tradition said there are 3 kinds of compassion. First is small compassion, second is medium compassion, and third is great compassion. Small compassion is to become caring each other among the family members. Right? I grew up in Hiroshima. I was the third son of 5 children. So my parents worked very hard to raise the children. And in Japan those days, life was tough, so children were very competitive. So due to working on sibling rivalry, I constantly had fighting with older brothers. Towards the young ones, I was good brother, but towards the older ones, I was very competitive. So these fingers signify children in Eastern Buddhist tradition. Okay? Ich, ni, san, shi, go. So these are five fingers signify 5 children. And we know that we cannot many times get along. But Hawaii's children, somehow they are very, very, what shall I say, helpful each other. Okay? That's good. Second compassion is medium compassion, which is to become loving, caring to others, especially neighbors. I live in Kailua town, Makare town, for the past 3 years. I believe Makare used to be quite a harmonious place 50 or 60 years ago, but today, oh boy, it's a very convenient place, close to Alamoana, downtown Moiliili. There are many restaurants in my neighborhood, so it's a very convenient place, but traffic is so noisy. Moped, young adults ride mopeds. Even 10 at night. Also, boy. So wake up in the morning, I start to walk around the elementary school, and I meet 6, 7 residents walking with dogs. Very cute dogs. So I talk to those members, and gradually I have a sense of community in Makare district. Okay? So it takes a long time to develop second type of compassion, which is called medium compassion. Now the third one is great compassion. Great compassion, which is none other than compassionate heart of Amida Buddha. The fingers are connected by the palm. Again, in Eastern Buddhist tradition, children, palm signify parents. Okay, parents. But for us, palm signify Amida Buddha's love and compassion. If there is an injury in the baby finger, entire hands sore. Yeah, and if there is a scratch, small injury on the index finger, the entire hands hurts. So heart of compassion of Amida Buddha is feel sad. In human life, nothing is perfect. We are growing old, and when we face death, and our life doesn't move according to the wishes. Definitely we cultivate 6 parameters. First is giving, selfless giving. And we become very patient, and we attain wisdom. But in this bodhisattva way of cultivating virtues is very difficult for ordinary people. So when life doesn't move according to the wishes, we try to do our best, but ultimately we turn to compassionate heart of Amida Buddha. May I explain the working of Amida's great compassion with my experiences that I cannot forget. Although I grew up in Hiroshima, and I enjoyed the entire city due to the good school education. Yeah, but Hawaii is my second home. Hiroshima is my birthplace, but Hawaii is my best hometown. As you may know, entire city of Hiroshima was destroyed by the first atom bomb in 1945. I was 4 years old. So I found for everybody, life was tough. Adults, seniors, citizens, children, and small children, they were having a hard time. I enrolled a school called Hiroshima University Lab School in 1947. And the home teacher was called Muneto Kagawa. And he taught 42 of us for 4 years. So from grade 3 to grade 6, I was taught by this young teacher called Muneto Kagawa. All of the students respected this sensei as a special kind of teacher because of his humanness. He was very honest. He admitted his mistakes, and yet he was able to see that there was a gift of life. So for him, all children are important. No discrimination. Everybody was important. But among 42, there were 4 to 5 kids who didn't study, so Kagawa Sensei was very much concerned. One year there was a headache. In his homeroom, 4 to 5 boys started to make trouble to a girl called Hisako Kashima. She was raised by the father, who had a small country store, a grocery store. So the father was too busy to bathe Hisako. So Hisako developed a uku in her hair, and she became smelly. We were third grade, okay? So the 4 to 5 boys used to go to see Hisako, and they started to poke Hisako's head with the pencils. And they became more and more violent. So Hisako's father complained to Mr. Kagawa, and Mr. Kagawa said, "Okay, I'll take care. But would you give me 3-4 weeks for me to check the cause of the trouble among the boys?" So as an educational researcher, he went to research and found out the cause of the trouble. In the Hiroshima University Lab School, there were only 2 grades, 2 homerooms on each grade. 1年、2年、3年, first, second, third. There were only 2 homerooms, but in 1947, the Japanese government added 1 more homeroom to train more young students to become public school teachers. So I was in homeroom 3, right? And they were very intelligent kids. Homeroom 1, homeroom 2, and they saw homeroom 3 students making trouble. And whenever something bad happened in the playground, they said, homeroom 3, they. So they started to criticize homeroom 3 children. So 4 to 5 boys started to become very nervous. And in order to let the air out, they turned inside their own homeroom and started to pick up a girl who was a little bit different. So this was the cause of the trouble. And Mr. Kagawa started to talk jokes to 42 of us to bring about more harmonious environment within the classroom. And many of us became very obedient, understanding, caring each other, and we all finished our elementary school education in 1953. And I used to think Kagawa Sensei was special, but the 4 to 5 boys who was bullying Hisako Kashima, they were very bad. So for many years, I used to think what the boys did was wrong. In 1986, about 30 years after I finished elementary school education, I was here in Hawaii, and I went back to Hiroshima with my family. And one day, I went to see Mr. Kagawa, who was back to his home in Hiroshima from Miyazaki University. And he was happy to see me. I was very happy to see Sensei, and we were talking many stories. Then I asked Mr. Kagawa. I said, Kagawa Sensei, by the way, one year there was a very unfortunate incident. 4 to 5 boys always making trouble to Hisako. Sensei, why did they do that? As an educational researcher, he knew the cause. But in fact, he said there were many causes for the boys, cause of the trouble that the boys were doing. And Mr. Kagawa gently looking at me and said, Muneto-san, you were one of those 4 boys. What? For many years I thought I was a good boy. But Kagawa-sensei knew that I was one of those 4 to 5 boys who made trouble. When he said, Muneto-san, you're one of those boys, he had so much respect, love and care towards me. I could tell. So I apologized to Sensei. Sensei, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he was just smiling on his face. Okay? This is the incident that I remember, still remember, because through this incident, somehow I found the cause of suffering in this life and the compassionate heart of Amida Buddha on the Buddha land of peace. Amida, to liberate us from suffering or sorrow, becomes Nenda Ko. This is in Japanese, Myogo. Amida Buddha becomes Nenda Ko, to reach our hearts and minds. Seeing I'm suffering, Mr. Kagawa couldn't just sit, could stand and watch. He has so much care towards me. Okay? So Amida Buddha, knowing my sorrow, cause of sorrow is blind passion, bonno, anger, greed, self-attachment. Constantly I have that. Therefore, Amida becomes Nenda Ko. And that is, help me, all-time members of Hilo Hongwanji, what is Nenda Ko say? There used to be another object of reverence in this altar. There was a scroll of Namo Amida Butsu. 6-letter Namo Amida Butsu signify Buddha's act of coming to our heart and mind to liberate us from suffering and sorrow. So, I remember Mr. Kagawa was a special teacher for me. He really helped me to become reasonable Jodo Shinshu teacher. Okay? And what I remember is that in his heart and mind there was always Nenda Ko Namo Amida Butsu. So on this special day of spring Higan, we definitely try to see the other shore of enlightenment. But we cannot see the other shore of enlightenment. We cannot see heaven. We cannot see heaven. It's beyond our comprehension. But in Christian tradition, there is a Jesus Christ. Okay? In Jodo Shin Buddhist, there is a Amida Buddha's name. This is a statue, symbolizes fulfillment of Amida's vow to save every one of us. And Buddha's heart is Namo Amida Butsu. May you always be happy. May you call my name, because your salvation, or what you call path of enlightenment, has been already accomplished. But so far as we live on this earth, with humanness, we cannot be in the enlightened, the other shore of enlightenment. We constantly become aware of working of Amida's compassion, in the name that call. And at night, in the morning, daytime, driving, reading books, I constantly remember name that call, Namo Ami Butsu. So this heart of compassion is the source of the genuine love and care and happiness, and may we express this start in our daily living, and we can make our life in Hawaii definitely happy and very constructive, truthful one. So, would you join me for meditation? As the sun shines upon the earth, awakening the sea that lies therein, so does the light of truth shed its glorious radiance in the hearts and minds of all mankind, calling forth into activity, compassion of the universe. May the same light shine upon us all, giving us the insight to realize that life is one, so that we can constantly work for well-beings, not only of ourselves, but also of all people everywhere. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.